The rain crashed against the glass as Maya whispered, "Sir, can you be my boyfriend for a few minutes?" Her voice cracked, fragile yet defiant, and her trembling hands clutched the strap of her worn purse like it was her lifeline. The silence between them stretched painfully, broken only by the hum of the crowded cafe around them. Jordan looked at her, his sharp jaw tightening, his eyes burning with an unreadable fire, and for a moment he forgot the empire his wealth had built. Maya's chest rose and fell rapidly, her pride fighting with desperation, and shame heated her cheeks as she lowered her gaze. Jordan said, "Why me?" His deep voice carried both suspicion and an undertone of intrigue that startled her. Maya forced a smile, her lips trembling, "Because you're the only one who doesn't know me here." She bit the inside of her cheek, afraid he could see through her fragile armor. The world outside blurred in gray sheets of rain, and in that suspended heartbeat, everything about them began to change. Maya's voice cracked again as she whispered, "It doesn't have to mean anything." Her words floated between them like fragile glass ready to shatter, and she hated the sound of her own desperation. Jordan leaned forward, his eyes catching hers, and he said, "Nothing ever means nothing." She flinched, clutching her purse tighter, heart hammering against her ribs. The rain outside grew louder, as if echoing her pulse, and the cafe lights flickered under the storm's weight. Maya felt the weight of curious glances from nearby tables, but kept her face steady. Jordan's stare pierced her like a flame through shadow, and she wondered if she had just invited danger instead of safety. Jordan's voice lowered, deep and unyielding. "Who are you hiding from?" The question struck Maya like lightning, and her throat tightened. She forced a laugh, brittle and hollow, and said, "Does it matter?" Her words masked fear with a fragile defiance that made him lean closer. The storm outside roared louder, rattling the glass panes. Maya's hands trembled against the table as she willed herself to look up, meeting Jordan's burning stare. She whispered to herself, not to him, "Please, just for tonight." Jordan shifted back slowly, his sharp features unreadable as he said, "You don't strike me as the type who begs." Maya's chest tightened, heat rushing to her cheeks, and she whispered, "I'm not begging, I'm surviving." Her words felt heavier than the storm itself, and his eyes softened for the first time, flickering with something almost like pity. The cafe air grew dense with unspoken truths, their silence louder than the rain. The storm pressed harder against the city, thunder rolling like a warning. Maya's eyes glistened as she whispered, "Just pretend for now, please." Jordan's lips parted, but no words came, and for the first time in years, he felt cornered not by business rivals, but by a stranger's pain. He exhaled slowly, his chest rising with reluctant surrender, and nodded once. The world outside blurred into soundless rain, and the moment sealed itself in silence that carried more weight than words. The storm eased into a drizzle as the night deepened, and the cafe thinned of customers, leaving only a hush between Maya and Jordan. Maya said, "You don't need to know me, just pretend I'm yours until he leaves." Her voice cracked but carried stubborn fire. Jordan leaned forward, his dark eyes sharp, and replied, "Who are you hiding from that makes you so desperate?" Maya's heart clenched, her chest rising heavily, and she whispered, "The past doesn't let go easily." Her words lingered like smoke, heavy with scars. Jordan studied her, his hand brushing the rim of his glass, and for a moment his cold mask flickered with curiosity. Maya said, "I'm not asking for forever, just protection tonight." He exhaled, slow and controlled, while thunder grumbled faintly in the distance. Jordan tilted his head, his voice low and probing. "You walk into my night and ask me to shield you, yet you won't say why." Maya's lips trembled, and she forced a half-smile, whispering, "Because if I say it out loud, I'll break." She clasped her hands tightly in her lap, fingernails digging into her palms, and stared at the wood grain of the table. Jordan leaned closer, his gaze cutting through her defenses, and said, "You've been broken before." Her chest ached at his words, the truth too sharp to deny, and she whispered, "Yes, but I'm still here." Silence pressed down between them, filled only by the soft hum of rain against glass. Maya's voice carried a quiet defiance. "You don't have to like me, you just have to stand next to me." Jordan narrowed his eyes, the corner of his mouth twitching as if mocking her courage. He said, "That's all you want? A shadow of a man to cover you?" She flinched but nodded, her pride battling shame, and answered, "Yes, if only for tonight." He leaned back, crossing his arms, his figure commanding even in the dim light, and said, "You're braver than you know, asking me of all people." Maya exhaled sharply, her heart pounding, the cafe walls closing in with every beat. Jordan's voice softened, surprising even himself. "Tell me why you chose me." Maya lifted her gaze for the first time without flinching, her dark eyes steady as she whispered, "Because you don't look at me like I'm broken, even now." The words shook him, cutting deeper than he expected, and he sat still, caught in her raw honesty. The storm outside had quieted, leaving only the muted rhythm of raindrops. Maya leaned forward slightly, her expression fierce despite trembling lips, and said, "If you walk away, I'll still stand. But if you stay, I might finally breathe." Jordan exhaled sharply, running his hand across his jaw, and said, "You're asking for more than you know." Maya shook her head slowly, her voice firm. "No, I'm asking for less. Just a moment of peace in a storm that won't end." Her words carved silence between them, heavy and aching. Jordan studied her, torn between refusal and an urge he couldn't name, his chest rising with restrained breath. Finally, he muttered, "Fine. For tonight." Relief washed through Maya's face, though her eyes shimmered with unspoken fear. The cafe lights flickered once more, sealing their fragile pact under the watch of the storm. The cafe door creaked open, and Maya froze as a familiar silhouette entered. Her heart pounded as she whispered to herself, "Not tonight, please." Jordan noticed her sudden stiffness, his sharp gaze following hers. A tall man scanned the cafe, his presence heavy with unspoken menace, and Maya's pulse quickened like a drum. Jordan leaned closer, his voice low. "Is that?" She swallowed hard, nodding faintly, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. The storm outside rattled the glass again, as though warning of chaos to come. The man's eyes swept the room until they landed on Maya, and her breath caught in her throat. Jordan straightened, his expression unreadable, but his posture protective, creating a barrier she hadn't asked for, but desperately needed. The man's lips curled into a cold smile as he stepped further inside, his shoes clicking against the wooden floor. Maya's chest tightened and she whispered to Jordan, "Don't let him see I'm afraid." Jordan's jaw flexed, his deep voice steady as he said, "Then let him see me instead." The man approached slowly, his eyes locked on Maya with a blend of ownership and accusation. The cafe grew quieter, as if strangers sensed the storm brewing inside. Maya straightened her shoulders, forcing her trembling hands into her lap, determined not to crumble. Jordan leaned back with calculated ease, his presence like a shield, daring the man to come closer. The man stopped at their table, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "Maya, running away doesn't erase me." Maya's throat tightened, her body trembling, but she forced her lips to curve into a defiant smile. She said, "I'm not running, I'm sitting right here." Jordan's hand rested on the table, steady, his eyes never leaving the intruder. He said calmly, "She's not alone tonight." The man sneered, eyes flickering between them, his pride wounded by Jordan's quiet authority. Maya's pulse raced, but strength sparked in her chest as she sat taller, refusing to let her past define her present. The man leaned closer, his voice a hiss. "You think he can save you?" Maya's eyes glistened, her voice sharp yet trembling. "I don't need saving, I need freedom." Jordan's gaze hardened, his tone cold as he said, "Freedom doesn't ask for permission." The man recoiled slightly, surprised at Jordan's composure. Maya's breath came unsteady, but the weight of his words gave her courage. She sat taller, shoulders squared, her fear transforming into resolve. The cafe air felt charged, like lightning waiting to strike, and strangers around them pretended not to stare. The man's face twisted with anger, but he forced a smirk, muttering, "This isn't over." He turned sharply, footsteps echoing as he stormed out into the night. Maya's breath shuddered, her trembling hands finally unclenching. Jordan's eyes lingered on the door, his voice steady. "You're stronger than you think." Maya exhaled a shaky laugh, tears brimming as she whispered, "I don't feel strong, but thank you." The cafe resumed its quiet hum, but for Maya, the air still carried ghosts of the past. Jordan leaned forward, his voice low. "Then maybe tonight, you borrow my strength." Her eyes softened, gratitude washing over her fear. The cafe's hum dimmed, but Maya's pulse kept racing as if the storm outside had been swallowed into her chest. Jordan's gaze lingered, sharp and unyielding, reading the weight she fought to hide. He leaned in, his tone precise. "That wasn't just some man from your past, was it?" Her lips quivered, silence dragging like chains before she whispered, "He used to own me in ways that no one should." Her voice cracked, fragile yet laced with fire, each syllable carrying scars etched deep within. She looked away, ashamed of truths she never wanted to speak aloud. Jordan's jaw clenched, his eyes burning with quiet rage as he said, "No one owns you now." The words sliced through the space between them, bold and absolute, but her chest tightened painfully. A single tear betrayed her defiance, slipping down her cheek. The storm tapped against the glass with a rhythm like accusation, and for a moment Maya felt the world closing in. She wanted to believe him, but ghosts of the man who once controlled her still clung like shadows stitched into her skin. Jordan's voice dropped deeper, heavy with restrained anger. "Why did you tell me before?" His stare never wavered, demanding truths she had buried beneath silence. Maya exhaled sharply, her shoulders sagging, and whispered, "Because I thought I left it behind, Jordan. But men like him, they never let go." Her knuckles whitened as her nails dug into her palms beneath the table, grounding her in the only way she knew. Shadows from the flickering cafe lamps stretched across her weary face, painting exhaustion in every line. Jordan's eyes softened, but fury tightened his chest, every muscle straining against composure. His words cut through clenched teeth. "He'll regret ever thinking he could still touch your life." Maya's lips trembled, the bitter edge of a laugh escaping her. "You don't understand," she murmured, her voice broken yet steady. "He has power, money, connections. He destroyed everything I once loved." The storm outside cracked faint thunder, as if agreeing with her despair. Silence swelled between them, heavy and suffocating, yet Jordan leaned closer, fire blazing behind his calm, as though already planning war. The air around them thickened as Jordan shifted closer, his voice slicing with raw defiance. "You think money scares me?" Maya's eyes widened, startled by the sudden edge in his tone, confusion flickering across her trembling face. He leaned in, his expression a storm of restraint, and continued, "You have no idea who you're sitting with." Maya blinked rapidly, disbelief tightening her chest. "What are you saying?" she whispered, her words brittle, as though afraid of the answer. Jordan's eyes burned with dangerous clarity, his lips pressed thin before he released a vow. "I'm not just some stranger, Maya. I could ruin him with one call." Her breath caught violently, her entire body recoiling as disbelief flooded her. "You? How?" The words tore from her throat, weak but desperate for explanation. The storm outside growled louder, rattling the windows as if echoing the truth revealed inside. Maya stared, torn between suspicion and a flicker of fragile hope. For the first time, she sensed the empire in Jordan's silence, an empire cloaked beneath the mask of a man she thought she had chosen by chance. Maya's voice shook as she whispered, "You're lying." Her tone was sharp, defensive, desperate to shield herself from the impossible weight of his words. Jordan smirked faintly, but it carried no joy, only bitterness that burned at the edges of his calm. His eyes narrowed as he reached into his coat and pulled out a phone, the sleek glow lighting his features under the dim cafe lamp. "If only I were lying," he said coldly, his tone cutting with unshakable truth. The device gleamed like proof of secrets hidden in plain sight. "I built an empire, Maya. Quiet, unseen, power I never flaunt. But it's mine." Her breath stuttered, disbelief collapsing into anger, her chest tight as she snapped, So you've been sitting here with secrets as big as his. You let me beg when you had all this? Jordan leaned back, his exhale heavy, pain etched beneath his guarded expression. His voice steadied, carrying the weight of conviction. The difference is, my secrets can protect you. The dome flickered against the window pane, thunder rolling, as Maya trembled, torn between fury, fear, and the faint spark of salvation. Silence pressed down like a suffocating weight, broken only by Maya's trembling whisper. So all this time, I thought you were a stranger. But you're... Her words fractured, fear and awe colliding in her chest. Jordan's eyes remained locked on hers, unwavering, his voice steady as steel when he finished for her. A man he can never touch. Maya blinked rapidly, her throat tight, breaths uneven as she struggled to reconcile the calm presence before her with the storm of secrets revealed. She whispered, "You're dangerous." Her words weren't accusation but realization, heavy with truth. Jordan's lips curved into the faintest smile, not cruel but edged with warning. His voice softened, treading vulnerability with fire, only to those who hurt you. The storm outside finally began to ease, raindrops sliding like silver veins across the window, leaving behind a charged stillness. Maya's body shook, her lips trembling, yet her gaze clung to his. In that moment she realized, this man was no ordinary shield. He was a storm of his own, and her fate was now entangled with his darkness as much as her hope. Maya's chest heaved, as she stared at Jordan, the truth unraveling in her mind. She whispered, "You've been lying to me too." Her voice cracked, equal parts accusation and heartbreak. Jordan's eyes hardened, but his words were sharp with honesty. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you who I really am." Maya slammed her trembling hands against the table, her voice trembling. "That's the same thing." The cafe air thickened, strangers pretending not to watch as the storm outside reignited with thunder. Jordan leaned closer, his jaw tense. "You think I wanted you to beg me for protection? You think I wanted this?" Maya's tears burned as she whispered, "All I wanted was peace, not another man with secrets." Jordan's voice dropped to a near growl. "You asked me to play your shield, Maya. I became it. But now you can't accept what comes with me." Maya's chest ached, her breath ragged as she whispered, "Because power always costs something, and I've lost too much already." Jordan's fists clenched on the table, veins taut, his control slipping. He said, "You think I'm like him, don't you?" Maya flinched, guilt flashing in her eyes, her silence louder than denial. Jordan's expression fractured between fury and pain, and his voice cracked, "I'm not him." The storm outside cracked lightning across the sky as if punctuating his words. Maya's voice rose, raw and broken. "Then prove it. Show me you're not just another man who thinks he owns me." Her trembling body shook with every word, her pride clashing with grief. Jordan stood suddenly, chairs scraping against the floor, his towering frame casting a shadow across the table. His deep voice thundered, "I don't want to own you. I want to fight with you, not against you." Maya blinked through tears, her heart torn between disbelief and fragile hope. The cafe grew eerily quiet, all eyes stealing glances at their eruption. Jordan's chest rose with heavy breaths as he stared down at Maya. His voice softened, broken this time. "I can't change my world, Maya, but I can change what I do with it." Maya looked up, her lips trembling. "And what do you want to do with it?" His eyes glistened with something raw. "I want to protect you. Not because you asked me to, but because I can't stand watching you bleed alone." Maya's tears fell freely, her throat tight with every word she wanted to say but couldn't. She whispered, "You'll ruin yourself for me." Jordan knelt slightly, his voice steady. "Then let me." Maya's heart thundered painfully, her tears streaking as she whispered, "Why me, Jordan? Out of all the people you could save, why me?" His eyes burned with truth as he answered, "Because when you walked into my night, you reminded me what it means to feel alive." Maya gasped softly, her defenses cracking under the weight of his words. Their silence carried more power than the storm. Every breath charged with vulnerability and rage, turned into longing. She reached out slowly, her trembling hand brushing his, and for the first time, the world outside disappeared. The cafe became their battlefield and their confession, two broken souls clashing in the rawest of ways. The storm outside faded into soft rain, and the cafe lights glowed dimmer as the night deepened. Maya sat back, exhausted, her tears drying into fragile silence. She whispered, "I can't carry this anymore." Her voice cracked under the weight of unspoken scars. Jordan's jaw tightened, his gaze unwavering as he said, "Then let me carry it with you." Maya shook her head slowly, her lips trembling. "It's not that simple. The past doesn't just vanish because someone promises to fight it." Jordan leaned closer, his voice low but steady. "No, but it loses power when you stop facing it alone." Her heart thudded painfully, torn between fear of betrayal and longing for relief. Maya's hands trembled on the table as she whispered, "Every time I let someone close, they leave me broken." Her voice was small but sharp, echoing with pain. Jordan reached across slowly, his large hand covering hers, his tone firm. "Then let me be the one who doesn't leave." Maya's throat tightened, her tears brimming again, but she didn't pull her hand away. Instead she whispered, "You don't know what you're asking for." Jordan's eyes softened, his voice breaking slightly. "I know exactly what I'm asking. I'm asking for you." Her breath hitched, her chest rising sharply as silence thickened between them. The cafe staff quietly cleared tables in the background, but the world around Maya and Jordan blurred into irrelevance. Maya whispered, "I'm afraid if I let you in, I'll lose myself again." Jordan shook his head, his eyes burning. "No, Maya. You'll find yourself. I'll make sure of it." Her lips trembled, caught between disbelief and fragile hope. She said softly, "You sound like salvation, but I've learned salvation can be a trap." Jordan leaned closer, voice fierce yet tender. "Then don't call me salvation. Call me the man who refuses to let you drown." Her heart pounded painfully as she searched his face for deception, and found only fire. Maya's tears spilled as she whispered, "I want to believe you, but my scars scream louder than my hope." Her body shook with the release of words long buried. Jordan's hand tightened over hers, his voice raw. "Then let your scars scream. I'll still be here." His words cracked open something fragile inside her and she gasped, covering her mouth with her free hand. She whispered, "I don't deserve this." Jordan leaned in, his voice breaking with intensity. "You deserve everything they said you didn't." The rain softened outside, a rhythm of quiet forgiveness echoing through the night. Maya inhaled deeply, her chest rising as though the air itself weighed more than her body could carry. She whispered, "If I let you stay, if I let you fight with me, you'll see all of me. And I'm not sure I can bear that." Jordan's voice steadied, low and certain. "Then I'll see all of you and I'll stay anyway." Maya's lips trembled, and her body leaned slightly toward him, caught in a fragile surrender. For the first time in years, her heart let itself believe in something more than pain. The cafe hummed softly, the storm gone, leaving only quiet rain and the unspoken vow between them. The cafe clock ticked louder in the silence, marking the fragile space between them. Maya whispered, "If I take this step with you, there's no turning back." Her chest rose with fear and longing entwined. Jordan leaned forward, his eyes steady. "Then step, Maya. I'll catch you." She bit her lip, trembling under the weight of her choice. The rain outside slowed into mist, the storm's fury now only a ghost. Maya pressed her palms flat against the table, grounding herself in the moment, her voice soft. "All I ever wanted was to feel safe." Jordan's reply was a vow, his tone raw. "With me, you will." Maya's tears brimmed again, her lips trembling as she whispered, "But what if you're wrong? What if you leave, like everyone else?" Her body trembled as though bracing for heartbreak. Jordan's gaze pierced her, his jaw firm. "I've had power, I've had money, but I've never had you. I won't leave." His words landed like a weight, anchoring her heart. She exhaled shakily, shaking her head. "You make it sound so simple." Jordan's voice softened, A plea and a promise all at once because love is simple. It's the world that makes it hard. Maya's voice dropped to almost a whisper. You terrify me, Jordan. Her body shook with honesty, her eyes locked to his. Jordan leaned closer, his deep voice raw. Good. Because what I feel for you terrifies me too. Her breath hitched, her fear colliding with desire, and her lips parted as though words failed her. The cafe hummed faintly around them, but they existed in a fragile bubble of truth. Jordan's hand reached slowly, his fingertips brushing hers. Maya gasped softly at the touch, her chest rising sharply. The world narrowed into that trembling space where fear and love became indistinguishable. Her whisper cracked like glass. If I give you my heart, and you break it, I won't survive it. Her voice trembled, her body rigid with vulnerability. Jordan's eyes glistened, his voice firm. Then I'll hold it like my own, and never let it break. The air thickened, silence heavy with promises too big for words. Maya exhaled sharply, her hand sliding fully into his, fingers intertwining. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean toward him, closing the distance between fear and surrender. Jordan's lips parted, his breath warm as he whispered, "This is the only truth I know." The cafe lights flickered once, as though sealing the moment. Maya whispered, "Then let this be the beginning, not the end." Her voice was soft but firm, her eyes locked to his. Jordan's lips curved into the faintest smile, his voice deep. "It's both, Maya. The end of your fear, the beginning of a..." She exhaled, tears finally falling freely, her head bowing as his hand steadied hers. The rain outside stopped completely, leaving silence heavy in its wake. Their eyes met once more, and in that gaze, they carved a vow that would haunt and heal them both forever.